Alright guys, first thing we'll show you a little trick, guys. Look at this. Look at the hood. It won't stay up. Now I know a lot of you guys like to keep a stick by the seat, and the stick serves two purposes. One, when people get out of hand, and two, to roll your hood up. But I don't recommend using that, guys, because sometimes you can hit the stick and this thing will fall on you. Here's a surefire way of doing this. Now your pistons are bad already, right? So you ain't gonna damage them. Take your pair of vice grips, open the hood up, take the vice grips, lock it on the piston part, and make sure that's tight, guys. I mean, if you're not sure, just tighten them vice grips up a little bit more, and that is safe. This way you can work up under the car, and if you're still unsafe about that, put another one on the other side. All right, we'll be right back. Alright guys, now before you jack this vehicle up, this vehicle has an air suspension system that you must shut off before you jack it up. Now as you can see, I'm on the passenger side of the vehicle. Got my light on. And oh man, I'm getting too old for this mess. Alright guys, if you look at this cover right here, I'm gonna bend this back a little bit. You see it says air suspension, and got an arrow going up, and it has fuel reset and an arrow going up. So push that back. You don't have to take this down, but I'm gonna pop this down to show you better. Now if you look inside there, in the back, way back here in the corner, you're gonna see a yellow little sticker. And that's the air suspension. And what you want to do, that's a button, off and on. So that's what you're going to do is just hit that button down, and that's going to shut the suspension system.
It got dark. Okay. A little blurry. You see it. So you push it down?
Yeah, push it down to go for off.
Okay.
Right. You can see that?
Yeah.
You can see that, Siri?
You're looking straight at my screen, so you know I can see it.
Okay. So, now, again, guys, you don't have to pop this down like I did, but I did that, so let me put this back up there. And once we finish the job, remember to cut that back on. All right? We'll be right back. All right, guys, the next thing is safety. This has got to be the most important part of any job when you're getting up under it. Well, we're not going to get up under it, but somewhat the same. You want to have your hydraulic jack the vehicle up, and you must have a jack stand up under there. And for added security, we're going to leave our hydraulic jack right there in place. Now, guys, next thing. You want to make sure you have a solid foundation for your jack stand. If you're working on the grass or dirt or anything, or even asphalt, you want to make sure you get about a 2x12 piece of plywood and set it up under there to serve as a solid base. I'm on concrete, so I'm good to go. The next thing we're going to do is take off the tire. Now your tire might be different, might have different lugs. Of course, this is aftermarket rims, so it's definitely going to be different. But if you got the same size lug nuts, I'm using a 19mm shallow socket. You're probably using a deep. We're going to take off the 6 lug nuts and take this tire off.
I only count 5.
Oh yeah, my bad. 5. All right, Sylvia, you need to stop correcting me, Sylvia.
I'm just saying.
Because
somebody might be like,
if
where's
I say
the
there's
6
6,
one?
if I say there's 6, there's 6. They would say,
but somebody might be like, well, I only have 5. What do I do?
Stay there and look for the 6.
All right.
Till you find it. All right, let's get this tire off while Sylvia messing with us, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, I got 2 left. I forgot, I wanted to show you why we're changing the wheel bearings on this. Watch this, guys. That thing is, them wheel bearings are messed up. So when you're going down the road, the customer was hearing a loud grinding noise, and the wheel starts shaking.
I thought it was a clunking.
He said clunking, but it's got to be grinding and all that, man. All right, let's finish getting this tire off, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, the next thing we're going to do is take off the cap to your master cylinder. Reason being because we're going to be pushing back the pistons on the caliper, and the brake fluid is going to come back. Sometimes you can damage a master cylinder if you don't allow something to release that pressure. And pushing the pistons back, I'm going to show you that in 1 minute. Alright, let's set that to the side and we'll be right back. Alright, the next thing you want to do is grab you some paper towel. Now I like to call this, and make sure I want you to call this too, call it the Timmy towel. Now what you're going to do is just ball it up, stick it in the master cylinder, just like that. Reason being, when you start pushing those pistons back, that fluid's going to rise up and it's going to spill out of here. You don't want to mess, so you want to definitely use something to soak it up. Don't use a regular rag or something, because it might not soak it up enough, and it might act just as bad as the cap. A paper towel is more porous, so it will definitely soak it up. And I'm going to show you that when we push the pistons back. Alright? We'll be right back. Alright guys, now I'm going to show you a little trick, guys. Instead of taking the caliper off, using a C-clamp and all that, we're going to push these back together. Now this is a dual piston caliper. A lot of calipers just have one piston. This little section right in there, that is the piston. This one has 1 and 2. Now what you're going to do is slide those back before we take the calipers off. You're going to take a screwdriver. Now I'm going to turn my rotor a little bit. You can see my rotor spinning there, inside there. Now the caliper is supposed to slide back and forth. So what you're going to do is take your screwdriver and a pry bar or a pry bar. You're going to stick it on this side, anywhere over there, like that. This one.
Wait, aren't you on the wrong side of the rotor?
No, because what you're going to do is, I'm going to be prying this way, so I'm going to be pulling the caliper this way, which means the pistons are going to go back. So you say, what the heck you say?
Exactly.
Watch this. Watch this. Alright, so right there. Now, I want you to pay attention to this side right here, this one, and watch how that piston starts going back. Get something to grab it in. Get the other side. It's hard to get this. See it go back? Mm-hmm. Because the caliper slides. So that's all you're doing is pushing up, prying up against the rotor in between the caliper, and you're bringing the caliper back. Now once you get that much in there, then you can get the screwdriver between the brake pad and the rotor, and then you can continue slowly pushing that back all the way till it can't go anymore. That's pushed back. Now this is a good time to check your slide pins. These slide pins, there's one up here, and one down here, which lets this caliper slide back and forth. Now if you can do this, it doesn't mean something's bad. That's good. You definitely want to see something like that. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, the next thing we're going to do is remove our caliper. Now your caliper is held on by 2 Torx bolts. Let me get a mirror right here, and you can see in the mirror one right there, and then further down one right here. Those are a T47. Now what you want to do, guys, because a lot of times a lot of dirt gets built up in these, so you want to take your T47. I'm going to use a 3/8 drive. You want to see how it's like kind of stuck there. So what you want to do, because you definitely don't want to strip those out, take the hammer. You can saw how the hammer had it brought it in there more. Make sure that works. Then I'm going to use my 3/8 drive ratchet, cordless ratchet. And what I'm going to do is break it loose first, and then go ahead, remove it. Now it's a good idea to get the bottom one done first, because sometimes you take the bottom off and that caliper might swing off, swing down, not on this one. Alright, so let's go down here. Get that in there. A little bit. Okay, both bolts are the same length, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. Alright, let's get those bolts out and we'll be right back. Alright guys, now we're going to take our caliper off. But you got to be careful, because the calipers on this sets in one way. If you look at the bottom of this caliper, you can see I was hooked on. This whole piece right here is considered the caliper bracket. See, I was hooked on right there. So there's no way I can sit here and pry this all I want. That ain't coming out of there. So what you got to do is go to the other side, take a screwdriver or something, Push it out just like that. Pick it up and the caliper off. Do not let the caliper hang on that hose. Either take your wire tie, a mechanic's wire, hang it up to the side, or what I'm going to do is just rest it right up there, just like that. And guys, watch, look at this, guys. That thing is messed up. All right, we'll be right back. All right, guys, now we're going to remove our caliper bracket. Off camera, I don't know why Sylvia didn't ask this on camera. I told her to ask on camera. No. She said, well, can't you take off just the caliper bracket with the caliper mounted to it? Everything is assembly. Yes, you can, but that becomes a lot more complicated, guys. You got the calipers moving around, the brake pads falling out. Putting that together, back together is a nightmare. All right, so now that we answered that, let's take this thing off. Now, what your caliper bracket's going to be is held on by two 18mm bolts. You got one right there, and then one right at the bottom. So we're going to use is an 18mm shallow socket, 1/2-inch drive, and a 1-inch wobble extension. You probably don't need a wobble extension if you're using a regular 1/2-inch drive ratchet, but I'm going to be using my cordless impact. And we're going in, and make sure that this thing is tight. Bottom one. Sometimes the extension will make you lose torque. Dang it, that sucks. Alright guys, I'm gonna have to get me a ratchet. Be right back. Alright guys, got my 18mm. That thing cracked? Holy cow, it cracked. Son of a biscuit. Oh well, that's garbage. Let me see if it will still take it off. Alright, got my 1/2-inch drive ratchet, and I'm using a little breaker bar on it to see. I'm gonna have to step on this. There we go. There's one. And that's two. Alright, let's get those off and we'll be right back. Alright guys, got your bracket off. What you're going to do, let's put our bolts back in there so we don't lose them. Now our other brake pad fell out, but don't worry about that guys, we'll do it later. And so what I'm going to do is set it over here in the line. Now this is a cool idea guys, this is the party line. This is the first bolts we took out. Whoops. Here's the next thing we took out, so every time we take off a part, we're going to put it in the line, and then you just start from the end of the line and work your way back. That is cool, man. Look at that. Oh, good. That sucks. Alright, let's get this rotor off. We'll be right back. Alright, guys, the first thing we're going to do is remove our dust cap. Now, there's two ways of removing that dust cap. One, and as you can see, there's already marks on it. You can take your nice pair of China locks, and you grab it, and you wiggle it back and forth. You know, grab it and try to get that off. Or, there's a little lip right inside. What you can do, take your screwdriver, put it right there. Take a hammer, I'm going to use a pair of pliers. Tap it into place. Keep walking around. And you can see that's starting to come right out of there. And it's off enough. Let's grab our channel locks and take that right off. Alright, let's set this to the side and then we're going to take off the bearing. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, the first thing you're going to do, there's a cotter pin in here. You're going to have to remove that cotter pin. Just take your pair of cutters and you want to just bend each tab down. Once you get it straight enough, then take some pliers. Get them kind of straight as possible. Then, that cotter pin is going to go, it goes through a hole right here, through the spindle. So pick it up a little bit And you can see it come up. And either you can take it off by your hand, or sometimes you have to get a pair of pliers or something and pull it out of there. Take that off. Put that down to the side. The next, you're gonna have a little wash right here. It's a lock. It's like a lock washer, a Castle lock washer. Let me take that off and show you. See how that is like a crown, like a king crown. Yeah, buddy. Now, what does this do, guys? You see how on the other side, how it's made like that? So what it does, now remember, in the spindle, there's a hole right through the spindle. So, and here's the nut that's holding everything together. Now what this does is goes over, and it's got a lot of grooves in it. It lines up, goes over the nut, and then the cotter pin will go through the hole to one of the castles and stop it from turning. And as you can see right now, that one's not lined up. I wouldn't be able to get a cotter pin right there. So then you just take it off, turn it a little bit, until you can get one that lines up just like that. And the cotter pin will go through it. So the cotter pin will stop this from turning, and being that that's on the nut, that'll stop that from turning. Put that down to the side. Next, this nut is not super tight, guys, so don't get a ratchet in. I'm going to show you how loose these things are. Of course, this one's kind of messed up already, but these things, you can just take a pair of pliers. Look how easy that comes off. All right? Dang it. That's just it. Let's get that. That's how easy that come off, and maybe you look like a fool. All right, so let's get that off, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, now you're going to have a washer and then the outer wheel bearing. And you can try to get a screwdriver and pick that out and all that. I'm going to show you a little trick. What you do is make sure it's in there. Yeah, that thing is like it's kind of stuck. Oh. Hit the rotor right about here. But have your hand right here just in case. You know, like the Fonz. Oops. Yeah. It's supposed to have popped out. This thing sucks, man. Oh my goodness, man. Look at this, guys. That's why it didn't pop out. Guys, let's get us something. Watch this, guy. Look at this. Wow, man. Those bearings are shot. So we're gonna have to get this off some kind of way. It should come out. Man, guys, what we're gonna do is try to just get the whole thing off. I'm trying to not make a mess here, but let's. Man, dang it! That guys, this thing is completely and there's supposed to be a inside wheel seal right here. I think that's it. Still in there. Yeah, it's still in there with the inside bearing. Let's try to let's get this off. Man. Guys, this thing is destroyed. There we go. Ugh. Okay. Let's take all this off. Man, that's messed up. Alright, let's get a piece of paper towel or rag and clean all this up. Alright? Right back. Alright guys, now this part of the car right here is called the spindle. Now first of all guys, it is very important that you get the right grease to put in here. Now, here's some grease. You know, STP is probably the more common brand, but definitely get the main thing you want to look for is high temp. You can put all the grease in here you want. If it ain't high temp, that grease is going to get a certain temperature and it's going to melt away and it's going to cause some serious damage. So you want to make sure you get high temp. High temp grease is good for like the breaking down point is like 500 something degrees. So you definitely want to get that. Now, don't be cheesy with the grease. Don't be just, and also get some gloves because you're going to get a few pair of latex gloves, so you're going to need them. All right, get it and put it on. Now don't be cheap with it. Don't be like, all right, that's good enough. No. Put a bunch of grease on that thing. Alright, so let's get that, put a lot of grease in there, and we'll be right back. Alright guys, we got our new rotor. Now guys, I want you to pay attention, go get really close in there, and you can see there's a little lip right there. See how it goes over right there?
Yeah.
That inside right there is called a race, a bearing race. Let me show you This is the new bearing. When you get your new bearing, you'll be like, what the heck is that piece for? Here's your bearing, and here is the new race. Now, if you're reusing your old rotor and all, you definitely want to take the old race out and put the new one in. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. I'm going to just pop one out on the old one in a few minutes to show you what I mean. But being that this is a new rotor, it comes with the new race. So let's put this back together. Now the next thing you want to do, guys, is take some wheel bearing grease and stick it in here. Put it nice all inside there. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, now it's time to install the bearing. Now if you look at your bearing, you see that this side is wider than the smaller side. You want to make sure the smaller side goes in there first. But first, we got to pack the wheel bearing with grease. Now, if you look inside there, we need to get grease all through those bearing needles, all of those around there, and squeeze that in there. Now, there's two ways of doing this. One, there's the backyard way, which I use it all the time. What you do is take a little grease, put it on the palm of your hand, take the bearing, and you keep doing that.
That looks painful.
No, it's not. You keep doing that until you keep putting your hand and until you see grease coming out the way. Or you can do it the easy way.
That looks like it would take about an hour.
No, it takes about 5 minutes. Get used to it. Use a bearing packer. Now what the bearing packer does is inside of that bearing packer you're going to see little holes. So what you do is take the bearing, the small end down first. It's got this little thing right here. You push that on top, and then you're going to push down. And it's going to push down that whole piece right there with the rubber grommet, the rubber O-ring. It's going to push that down, and the grease is going to squeeze up through them little holes. Then it's going to squeeze into the bearings. So, and it don't take much at all. Just squeeze down until you can see. I think I'm out there already. Oh yeah, just got a little. Yeah, there we go. See, it squeezed the bearings, the grease, all through the bearings. So this is done. And what you want to do, the added grease, you can take it and put it on the bearing on the outside. I know this is messy, guys, but you got to do this, man. Sit down. I ain't putting no grease.
So the more grease, the better?
Heck yeah. Alright, then the little end, set that down first into the rotor. Alright, there you go.
So it just sits there, you don't have to...
Nope, just sits right there. Now, what's stopping, when you put this rotor on, what's stopping the grease from sliding out through the back? That's where you get your wheel seal. On your spindle, you got this part right back here, this big part. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put it on. This big part, it goes right back there, and that part pushes on there, and it stops the grease from coming out through there. But first we gotta put it on here. So you put it down onto it, hold it into place, take your hammer, and you want to lightly tap it around to get it flush. Guys, that looks great. Now you notice I keep the plastic on there so I don't try to get no grease on the rotor. And if I do handle it, you want to handle it from this side, like that, and turn it over. Now what you want to do, take some grease and put it inside there. Alright, let's do that. We'll be right back. Alright guys, we're going to take our outer bearing, and the outer bearing is going to be smaller. It still sets in the rotor like this, but we're not going to put this on yet. But what we are going to do is get this prepared. Get a little grease going on there, and guys, you can see how look how perfect the grease came came out between the bearings. See that, Civvy? Civvy?
Yeah.
Alright, alright. What we're going to do is take it up, put some grease around it, get that nice and ready to install. But we're not going to install that yet. Alright, let's move all this to the side, get this out of the way, get it cleaned up, and get ready to install this. We'll be right back. Alright guys, let's pick our rotor up. And you want to get centered as possible because we got a lot of grease in there. Get the rotor on. Now the rotor is going to skid to a point where it's going to stop. That's where it's going to be at that seal. And that's all you have to do is just push back. Oh, it must be back there already. It is back. Alright, now, I forgot to show you one thing. Here's your spindle. The top half of this spindle is flat. And we got our washer right here that's going to go up there. That's got two flat sides. So you want to make sure you can't put it on the other way. It's only going to go on one way. But we're not ready for that yet. Now, we take our outer wheel bearing. Put our bearing up there. Push our bearing in. Then, take your washer. Push your washer down. Now this extra grease right here, guys, if you want, you could take that grease off. And that cap we took off in the beginning, you can stick it. It's got other grease in here, but you know what? We're gonna take that out. But we ain't know about that yet. All right, then take the nut. Start the knot off by a couple threads by hand to make sure it's going on. Then you want to bring that nut in. And remember, don't worry about what size that is because you're not going to be using anything. You're going to be using just your channel locks or pliers. And you want to go just till it's snug, guys. And I'm not even putting a lot of pressure on it. Just till it's kind of snug. And you can move your rotor back and forth. Alright, let's get this grease out of there. To the side. Next thing you want to do, remember about that castle washer right there, and you got the hole right there. So you want to put your castle nut on, and I lucked out right there that it happened to line up perfectly. Now you can either get you a new cotter pin. Let's clean up all this around here. You can get you a new cotter pin, or you can use your old cotter pin. Stick it in there. Get those needle nose, wherever they are. You know what? Let me take these gloves, man. These things are just too. And just take those tabs and bend them out. You can do one or you can do both. And that's just to stop that cotter pin from coming out. That looks great. Alright, now guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up. Clean this old junk up out of here. And then we're gonna put that on. Alright? We'll be right back. Alright guys, we're ready to put our dust cover on. Just wanna get this cleaned up a little bit around here. Alright, put your cover on. Now, what you can do is just get it lined up. Then you can take a hammer and you can just lightly tap it around until you see that little flange line up with it. Or you can start it off and then you can take a screwdriver and get right to the edges like this. But it won't come off. Alright guys. Ooh. Man, that's going to be cool. Alright guys, we'll be right back. Alright guys, next thing we're going to do is prepare our caliper bracket. First of all we're going to do, this one already came out. Take the brake pads out. Don't worry guys, I'm going to walk you through this together. Alright, first we have these little clips right here. Definitely want to get a brake pad set with new hardware because the brake pads, try to get this in here. The brake pads slide on this. So if it's messed up, got a lot of rust on it or something, it will not slide. Now these are made out of stainless steel, so you don't have to worry about them rusting, but the brake pads you do. Alright, so let's get this off now. So first of all we're going to do is take those off. And these things just pop right off. And if you have a little hard time like I'm having right there, just get you a screwdriver or something. Get something. Pop them right off, just like that. Now they are different, so remember where you took them off at. So just keep your caliper bracket right there. And this is a good idea. Take this one, put it right here. Let's see if this one pops right off. And this one will pop right off and put it right there. And the next thing we'll do, take your wire brush and you want to clean right here and clean right there. So you take your wire brush and clean that. Because you want to make sure when you put your new clips down there, there's no rust or dirt in there that will stop it from seating down all the way. Because if it don't seat down all the way, it's going to squeeze up against your brake pads and it's going to cause your brakes to overheat. Alright, so let's get this cleaned up and we'll be right back. Alright guys, now let's install our new clips. First of all, as you can see right here, we got our bottom one. That's going to go just like this. So pay attention to the way I'm doing it. Squeeze that on. Just like that. Turn it around. Now we got our other one. That's going to go just like this. And squeeze that on. That is great. But we're not done yet. Now remember I told you the brake pads slide along that. So you definitely want to make sure you have some brake pad lubricant to put on each four corners where the brake pad is going to slide. Now, instead of using your fingers and start putting grease all over the place, you want to get you a Q-tip. And we call this the 007. So instead of using your fingers, use a Q-tip. Put a little grease on the end of the Q-tip. Right there. Right there. Not a lot. And then we're going to go over here and do the other side. You don't have to grease the whole bar, just on the corners. Alright, let's get that done and we'll be right back. Alright guys, now we're ready to install our brake pads. Now, you look at your brake pads and your brake pads are going to have marks on them. You see this one? This one have two circles, which means I know this is the side that's going to be the inboard. Now, if you go up here, looking at the rotor, the inboard is the one on the inside, and of course, this one is the outboard. If the caliper is facing down, if put on like that, see the pistons on the side? So we know the one that's got the marks like that is going to be the inboard. So, take your inboard, look at it, switch it around like that, and then take the brake pad that matches up with it, that one. Then we're going to install that one. See if I can get through this way. And this goes into that groove right there, and then this one over here. And see that? Look at that. See, that's what you want, guys. That thing to nice and slide like that. Just set it up just like that. Then you're going to take your outboard one and get that one in there. And keep that in place. You want to make sure they're spread open as much as possible. Take your bolt out. Your two 18mm bolts. Get all your old stuff out of the way. Now what you're going to do over here is take your assembly, just like this, bring it over the rotors, make sure your brake pads go over the rotors. If it comes out like that, that's okay, that's definitely okay. Bring it in. Take one of your bolts, the top one preferably. Get that turned in by a couple threads so you don't get it cross-threaded. So now you're good to go. Now you can relax a little bit. Get your bottom one, and you might have to swing the caliper bracket out a little bit. Get that one started off by a couple threads. Now what you can do is take your brake pads and just squeeze them in to your rotor. Now, while you got that, then we're going to get ready to tighten those two up. All right, we'll be right back. All right, we're going to take our 18mm shallow 1/2 inch drive with our 1/2 inch drive ratchet, And we're gonna go ahead. Thing just keep coming out, boy. This thing gonna, and tighten up both of the bolts. And you're gonna tighten these up till they stop, and you know how tight this was. I mean, this one till it stops, and then get a little bit more snug out of it. All right, let's get them tightened up, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, tightened up. Brake pads, squeeze them in. Take your caliper. Now, see right here, guys. This is the pin I was talking. This is when we were sliding it back and forth. It slides on this pin right here. See that? If yours don't do that, either replace your caliper or pull this all apart and grease that up and clean up and grease it. But ours is good. And you want to make sure both of them is pushed out that way. And you say what I mean by both of them? There's one on one side and there's one on this side. So what you're going to do, now remember how we had to take this caliper out. So now, because that little hook right there, we have to get this situated, put the bottom one down first, get that bottom one hooked up right into, let's switch sides because I can see better from this. All right, gotta work that. We're gonna do this together because sometimes these things are a pain. Get that down in there. You know what? This sucks, guys, because I'm having a hard time getting on, and I just noticed my pistons, they can actually be pushed back a little bit more. So let's get those pushed back a little bit more. I'm gonna show you how we're gonna do that. All right, right back. All right, guys, I brought my caliper over this way, and I got my knee up under it because I don't want it to hang by that hose. Take an old brake pad, put the brake pad like this, get your C-clamp. What we're going to do is squeeze that and until that piston, and you can see that piston, actually saw that piston go back. Now, when you squeeze this one back, it's going to come to a stop, and then this one, because you're still putting pressure on it, it's going to start going back by itself. So watch what happens. You know, that didn't move back too much, but this one did. So, you know, just to be sure, let's loosen it up. Let's go on this side. Yeah, I guess it did. All right, now let's take it back off. Make sure our pins are pushed in. Bring our caliper on. Oops. See this lip right here? Make sure it goes inside that clip. So I'm trying to make sure that goes in there at the same time. There we go. Then that part hooks on. Bring it close in together. Get your bolts. Get the top one, bring it in. Start off by a couple threads, perfect. Get the bottom one. And you know, also guys, check this out, because I just wanted to show you something. Take this back out. Okay, when you get that down there, this one up here is going to stop. You notice how it stops right there at that clip? So what you're going to do is just push it, and it'll pop right into place. Then start this one off by a couple threads. Get the bottom one in. You can see you might have to wiggle it around a little bit. Get that one started by a couple threads. Let's get our T47. Now what I like to do is bring one in a lot. Don't tighten it up yet. Then I'll go to the other one and tighten that one up. And you want to just go till it stops, and then just a little bit more to snug it up. Alright, let's get both of them done, and we'll be right back. Alright guys, we got your tire on. Now, tighten up your tire up, guys. You do not want to tighten up your tire, the lug nuts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because there could be rust or corrosion in the back. And if you do that, the wheel might be tightened up kind of crooked. Then you're going down the road and your car be shaking everywhere and you wondering what the heck going on. So you want to tighten it up in a cross pattern. For instance, you want to tighten up this one. Now what I like to do is like to bring one just close, just to get the wheel set. And you want to skip one every time you go to tighten it off. So we'll start right here. Skip, go back to this one. Skip, go back to this one. This one, if it's a lock like this one is, I don't do it. I go to this one. Because that one is not supposed to be as tight as the others. And there it is. Now, oh yeah, look at that guy. They ain't moving nowhere. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, we did the other side already. Now, check out our Timmy towel. Look at that. Look how the brake fluid, look how it just soaked that brake fluid up and it didn't spill out all over the place. That is cool. So, take that out. We don't need that no more. Close this up. And this part, next part is very important, guys. Alright, because we got to pump the brake pedal up. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, now on the pistons, you saw how we pushed the, on the calipers, you saw how we pushed the pistons back. Now, when you step on the brake pedal, it's going to push that brake fluid down to the calipers and push those pistons back out. So when you first step on your brake pedal, the brake pedal might go down towards the floor. So this is why you got to pump it up, because you got to start this vehicle up and try to just take off, you're going to hit somebody when you go to stop. So you step on the brakes. See how far that brake pedal go down? You just hit somebody. So what you gotta do is let it go. You gotta keep on doing that. Now, look at it. Now I can't get no further than that. Alright? The next thing we're gonna do, or the last thing you do now, is cut back on your suspension system switch and you are ready to go.